Well, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Kneady Homesteader channel and a long-awaited video. I've been promising you guys this video for the past, what has it been, 2 months? I am so sorry it has taken me this long to make this for you, but here it is, my pressure canning video on my All-American 921 canner. I'm going to show you guys how I clean her up, how I prep her, how I run it through a canning process, and then how I kind of cool her down, clean her up, and store her. So this video is mainly for all of you newbies out there who want to pressure can, who are on the fence about pressure canning. Maybe you've been water bath canning and you're ready for that next step up, where you're really starting to can vegetables and meat and broth and all of the meat and potatoes of your pantry. So I absolutely love pressure canning. I love it much more than water bath canning. I don't burn myself when I pressure can, unlike I do with my water bath canner with boiling water. And I just know that once you start pressure canning, you guys are gonna love it. So this video isn't a do like me kind of video. This is mainly just showing you guys how I take care of my pressure canner and how I run it and use it, simply just to inspire you to want to use yours. I know many of you have contacted me and said that you got a pressure canner for Christmas or for your birthday. One of you said that you got it for a wedding anniversary. This is the wedding anniversary gift that you wanted. So, and many of you contacted me and told me that that your canner is still sitting in the box. So this video is only, it's coming from my heart only to inspire you to bring out your canner and to use it. And for those of you who have been on the fence about pressure canning, I hope that seeing me use mine will, I don't know, hopefully inspire you to go ahead and jump in and give it a try, because I think you're gonna absolutely love it. So without further ado, I use a All-American 921 pressure canner. With my canner, of course, it does have a gauge, but it also has a weight, so we'll be using a weight. It also comes with 2 trays, so the more you use it, the more love marks get left on your canner. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take this over to the sink. I'm gonna show you how I wash my pressure canner, how I prep it for a, and now, I don't always have to add a lubricant to it. I probably say every 3rd canning process, maybe every 3rd canning job, I add some more to it. But I always give it a good wash before and after a canning session. It's just, that's, you know, I've kind of developed a habit. So I'm just gonna kind of show you what I do, and yeah, I hope it inspires you. All right, let's get over to the sink. Okay, now, I never submerge my canner lid in water, but I do go ahead and I go around and I add just a little bit of hot water to this, and I just give it a good soapy bath. You know, if I use my canner every day, I don't necessarily do this because, you know, I clean it up after a canning session. But if my canner has been sitting for anything longer than a week, I don't know, I just like to give it a nice clean bath. But, you know, it's just a habit I've gotten into. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a wash. And then when I go ahead and wash my lid, just hit it with some soapy water. I don't ever immerse it into water, but you want to make sure you're really careful with your gauge. All right, after the good washing, we're going to go ahead and dry it off. I want to dry it really well. Okay, and then the next thing that I make sure is really dry is inside the seal. I'm not too worried about the inside of the canner because we'll be putting water in there anyway, but I want to make sure the seal is nice and dry. Okay, now this is where some controversy can happen. I'm just sharing with you from my experience what works best for me. You go ahead and do whatever you're comfortable with using. I have tried many different oils. I have tried olive oil, vegetable oil, lard. I find that it becomes discolored and it becomes sticky, and you have to apply it every single time you do a canning session. From my experience, what works best is Vaseline, good old-fashioned Vaseline. So what I do is I always keep a little container or a little tube of it, and I keep it in my canning basket so I always know where it is. And this is what I use. It takes very little, and like I said, I reapply it about every the third canning session or so. So, you know, you just have to check your canner. And the more you use it, the more you will get to know the feel and, you know, the vibe of it. So this is what I do, and I do have a video on this already, but this is great for anybody who's new, and I think that video is a couple years old now. So I put a little bit of Vaseline on a napkin or a paper towel, and I go around this seal. Now, the All-American does not have a rubber gasket like some other pressure canners out there. This seal is metal on metal, so it's very important that you put some sort of lubrication so that your lid does not lock and seal itself to the body of the canner. Okay, so what I do is I put it all around this seal. I also put it under this lip and under all of this, okay? That's how I do my lid. So then I'll go back through, and in these little grooves, in these little sections right here, I will just fold my napkin and just run it in there and make sure that each one also gets a little bit of Vaseline in there. That will prevent your nuts, your locking nuts, from sealing. All right, and then our lid is done and ready. So I'm gonna put that off to the side. I'm gonna add a little bit more, and I'm gonna bring the belly of my canner over. And go ahead and add a little bit more Vaseline here. And now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to do this inside seam seal right here. You'll see it, it's kind of curved a bit. And then I want to do all of the flat edge here. And then I want to go ahead and I'm going to be adding a little bit of Vaseline, focus camera, onto my bolts, okay? Or my nuts, my wing nuts here. So that's what we're gonna do now. I'm just gonna go ahead, and it just takes a thin layer. You just wanna make sure that your seal is good. It's metal on metal. You wanna make sure you have a good seal. I know some people have problems with their lids locking down and sealing and creating a seal. And in many instances, it's because the lid isn't on correctly. It might be a little crooked. And it's just not making a good seal at times. So all of these steps are important when running the All-American. And you just definitely don't want your lid locking and sealing itself metal on metal. Okay. So once all of that is nice and lubricated, you're good to go. You're ready to go ahead and start filling up your canner. Okay guys, so today I'm canning beans. And if you haven't noticed by my channel, I can a lot of beans. That is because beans not only are super inexpensive, they're really easy to can. In fact, if you're a newbie to pressure canning, this is a great place to start. You have to run a full canning session on them if you're doing quarts, actually, or pints, just as if you would if you were canning meat. or any kind of product that had meat in it. So it's a great beginner item to can for the first time. Here in our house, we've replaced about 2 to 3 meals a week that we would have normally ate meat, and we've replaced it with beans. So our house, we consume a lot of beans. We put them in everything, and even on top of salads. So they're really healthy, and they help prevent a lot of cancer, different kinds of cancers. So today I'm canning pinto beans because I only have 2 pints left in my pantry. So I have a lot of canning videos on beans on my channel. I will leave a playlist of all of my canning videos up above. Today it's really not about what we're canning, but more about running the All-American pressure canner. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to fill it up, and I'm going to show you how I fill my. I'm going to try to get you in my canning pot as much as I can. I do have a rack on the bottom. The rack does come with this canner, so make sure that you put that on the bottom. If you were canning pints, you could double stack this if you wanted. We are doing quarts. My particular canner, which is the All-American 921, holds 7 quarts. So that's what we're canning. Now, I am starting with a room temperature product, okay? So my water is not cold, it is not warm, it's room temperature. It's important that whatever temperature of the product that you're canning, whatever it is, if it's hot, you want a hot canner. If it's cold, you want a cold canner. If it's room temperature, I do room temperature, okay? So we are going to be using, and I'm going to judge by my mommy wrist, some room temperature water. And now I always prefer, of course, to start hot if I can. Usually most things that I can is a hot product. But beans, not so much unless you're using hot water, and I didn't use hot water today. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that up. Now my particular canner is 2 to 3 inches you're going to fill with water before adding the product, okay? What I do is I use my Pokey Joe, thanks to Mouse Toes. I'll leave her link up above. She's one of my favorite canners. I love watching her can. She calls this a Pokey Joe. So I use my Pokey Joe, and as you see, I have marked the 3-inch mark on it. This allows me to be able just to put my Pokey Joe down in the water and wait to the water level to hit that black mark, and then I'll know I have 3 inches of water. Now, if I'm canning something for 30 minutes, I'll put 2 inches of water in here. But anything for a long canning session like beans, which will go for an hour and a half, I want to make sure that my canner does not run out of water. So I use 3 inches of water. And that's exactly what that is. I'm going to let you peek inside my canner. And then I'm going to take you over to the stove, because I always get this question a lot, especially from newbies, about the water level being so high in my canner. It will rise when you start putting your jars inside because they're full of product. So that is fine. That's normal. You just want to make sure you have 3 inches of water before you add your jars, okay? All right, let's go over to my stove. So the best way for me to do this is just kind of to hold the camera up, and hopefully you can see. So there's 1 jar. I wish I could make this, hold on, let me try. Little better. Okay, so there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, 4, and then 1 more right there. Okay, so there are my jars, and I don't know if you can see that water level, but there it is. So you'll see how much it's risen because we've put so much product in here. Totally normal, okay. You don't want it 3 inches at this point. You won't have enough water to run a long canning session. And I will show you how much water is left in my canner after we run the beans and we clean up my canner. So that's it. We've now put it in, all right. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of vinegar in here. I'm just gonna pour about a tablespoon inside my canner, And that is because I'm on well water, and my well water happens to be extremely, extremely hard. So, in fact, so hard that it's sometimes can be a little difficult to get off my jars. The white powder substance that's left from all the minerals in my water. So, there we have it. This canner is now ready to go. So, we are ready to put the lid on. I'm going to try to get you zoomed in here so you guys can see this. You'll see that the All-American has these little clips. All right. That when you turn, lock underneath the body of your canner, which just adds to the safety of this. Okay, so now that our lid is on and twisted, this is what I do, and I will leave a link up above to the video that shows my lid trick. But what I do now is I go around and I run my Pokey Joe under all of these, and I make sure visually, step back, go all the way around, visually my lid is absolutely perfect. Okay, this is extremely important because if your lid is crooked at all, it can prevent it from making a seal, and your canner will never come up to temperature or pressure, and you will have to start again. So, extremely important part of the All-American, making sure that that lid is perfectly level and straight. And once it is, now you're gonna lock down the lid, okay? So, when we lock down the lid on an All-American, you're gonna go opposite sides. So, let's see if I can show you this. So I'm gonna go this one, and the opposite one is this one, all right? So when we do that, hopefully you guys can see here. When we do that, we are just going to lightly, just get this to go just to where it catches on the lid. You don't want to crank it down yet, okay? Until you've gotten all of your wing nuts here done, all right? If you lock it down tight before putting all of them up, you run the risk of changing and bending that seal a little bit so that the lid is crooked, okay? So once all of your locking nuts are up and in position, I'm sorry if this just seems so weird, but I'm trying to explain it best I can. Then you're gonna go opposite, and now you're gonna crank it down, okay? Crank it down, crank it down, crank it down. Now what I do after that, I'll go back around and make sure that none of them give me any room to make it any tighter, okay? Once I've done that, I know this baby is locked and ready to go. All right, so there you have it. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is, on my stove, now I've got propane heat, I'm gonna put this to high, a little less than high, okay? I don't put it all the way to high, just crank it down a little less than high, because on my stove it's kind of medium high. And now we're gonna just sit and wait and allow this to heat up to where it starts venting. Now this is an extremely important step. When we get a steady stream of steam coming from our vent, we're gonna time it for 10 minutes. It's extremely important when you're canning to get all of the air out of your canner. This is a step that electric pressure cookers that claim that they can don't do, okay? And why, I will leave the link down below, why the National Center for Food Home Preservation does not recommend them, all right? Because this step is so important. Now, from this point on to the point where we actually take and remove the jars from our canner, all of this counts as pressure canning time, okay? So none of these steps can be sped up shortcutted, nothing like that. This is all factored in when they come up with their times of how long food has to be processed, okay? From this point on, until we remove those jars from that canner, all of it counts. Every single minute counts for killing spores and foodborne pathogens, okay? That could make us very sick. So from this point on, we are not going to rush anything. We're gonna let our canner do her thing, and we're just kind of following along for the ride and, you know, making sure that there's no troubles along the way. So when this canner starts to vent, I will bring you guys back, but until then, she's just gonna sit kind of quietly on your stove on high until she starts to steam. So when that happens, I will bring you back and I'll show you the next step of what I do. All right, so you guys can see that steady stream of steam that's coming out, and you can also hear inside your canner the water boiling. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put 10 minutes on our timer, and when that timer is up, we'll come back and we'll put our weighted gauge on there. So now my 10 minutes is up, so we're gonna go ahead and put on our weight. Now I live in Michigan, and the city that I live in is 623 feet. And of course my camera shut off, so I have no idea what I missed. Anyway, all right, so we're gonna wait for this to reach at least 10 pounds of pressure at 240 degrees. My canner sits on a propane stove, and for this canner and this stove, it likes to sit around the 11 to 12 pound mark, a little over 240 degrees. Once this begins to jiggle and we've reached temperature, we can start our timer, which is going to be 1 hour and 30 minutes because we're doing quarts of beans. Now, this is going to change depending on what you're canning. So this, not necessarily important, but just kind of a step that I'm showing you that I do. So, all right, once this comes up to pressure, as you see, we're already climbing. We're already reaching about 5 pounds there. Once this comes to pressure, I will bring you back and we will start our timer and let this do its thing. Okay, so now that we are jiggling, and you'll see that our temperature is over 240, that's about where my canner likes to sit. On my dial here, I've got a sweet spot notched out in black. I don't know if you'll be able to see that, where my canner likes to sit. So that will bring it down in temperature a little bit, where that should jiggle 1 to 4 times per minute. And then keep your eye on the temperature gauge, and as long as this is not over jiggling, this isn't getting too hot, you should be fine. 1 to 4 times a minute, and this will be a nice controlled canner. It won't work too hard. You won't get a lot of siphoning, and your product will be beautiful, and the headspace will be beautiful. So, all right, there we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start my clock, and I will see you guys back here in an hour and a half. All right, our timer is going off, and all I'm going to do now is shut this off, and we're going to let this come down off of pressure, and once our gauge reaches 0, I will bring you guys back. And then here we go. It's down to 0. So what we're going to do, because this is going to be hot, I'm just going to take that off of there like that. Now, when all of the steam is gone and the pressure is down, what I do, especially in the winter, because it's cold, the air's cooler in the house, okay? I'm just gonna kind of crack this open here. All right. And then what I like to do is I like to just crack the lid. Just a little bit. See if we can do this one-handed. Okay, just a little bit. You can kind of see, I don't know if you guys can see in there, but we're just gonna let that sit cracked for about a half hour. And this just kind of lets my jars come down to room temperature a little easier, a little slower, which will help with any kind of evacuation or siphoning that might happen. But that is it. All right, so I will be back in about a half hour and we will pull these jars from the canner. Okay, so it's actually been closer to 45 minutes. So we're gonna go ahead, remove the lid. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and show you my jars inside. All right, and get these pulled out here. Okay. We've had a little bit of siphoning. Not bad though. Your beans, when you do dry beans the way that I can them, sometimes they do lose a little liquid. Just depends on how much they soak up. But on those jars, I'll use those first. We'll be using these up anyway. Get my battery out of there. But it's also part of the deal with canning in the cold, unfortunately. So all right, there we go. So we've had a loss of liquid on 2 of the jars. The rest of the jars look really good. These 2 though here, those 2 I will use up first. They're still good though because the beans are underneath the liquid, so I'm okay. If my beans were above the liquid, I would probably make sure I use those you know, tonight or tomorrow night, just because I don't like any of my product being exposed to the air. So anyway, there's our beans, okay, which wasn't the topic of today's video anyway, but I do want to show you the water level. Now let me get my Pokey Joe. So we started off with 3 inches, right? I want to go ahead and show you how much water is actually left. And if I had to guess, it'd be about 1 inch, which is usually what it is when I'm done with the canning session. So yeah, so there you have it. That's why you need at least 3 inches of water. That's why you need the 2 to 3 inches of water when you do a pressure canning session. And a long session like that, I'd like to air closer to the 3-inch mark. So there you have it. All right, now as you can see, my water is pretty clear. So now what I'm going to do, now I'm actually going to be setting this aside because I've got to cook dinner. So I kind of got to get this out of my way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just set my pot either over on the next burner or probably over on my counter over there on a hot pad. And I'm going to let it cool down before I try to empty it or anything like that. So when my canner completely cools down, I will empty out the water. I will give it another hot soapy bath, just like we did in the beginning of the video. I'll wash the tray that's in there, and then I'll let it dry really, really well. And then I will sit it over on my counter overnight. I'll also wash my lid, and I'll let both of those dry overnight. Then tomorrow, sometimes what I'll do, I'll put a dry towel at the bottom and I'll put the racks on top and then my weight, and then I just close up my canner and I put it on my shelf until the next canning session. So that is what I'll do. I figured I'd just explain that step to you so that you guys don't have to wait another whole day for this video. I can actually edit this and get it up for you guys tonight. Hopefully I'll have enough time to do that. But that's really it. The next time I can, I probably won't have to add any more Vaseline. but check it. If it feels dry to you, add a little bit more. It doesn't hurt to put a thin layer. Usually with Vaseline, I only have to apply it every 3rd canning session or 4th canning session. Unlike if I use an oil, I have to do it every single time. And I just find that the oil tends to get sticky where the Vaseline does not. That's just my experience. Your experience might be different. So you do whatever it is, you know, you gotta kind of figure out what works best for you. And what you like, what you prefer. So that's just how I prefer to do it. But I really hope that this video was helpful to you in some way. If you have any questions, just comment down below and I will try to answer them the best that I can. I will also leave a link down below to Mandy, More to Life, because she has, I think she has a video or she's doing a video on her Presto canner. So if you guys have a Presto canner, hop on over to her channel and she will show you how she runs her canner. I'm also going to leave a link down below to Prepper Potpourri and her channel because she did a phenomenal video on pressure canning, and she also has an All-American canner. And she really dives in deep about, you know, how to pressure can. And of course, my video and these ladies, you know, we all do this just as a visual help for you guys. It's definitely not to replace reading and, you know, educating and learning your, you know, learning how to can through books. But a lot of people are visual learners. So if you're reading a book and it's just not coming together in your head, sometimes it's just nice to be able to see somebody do it, you know, where you can visually see it. And then maybe it'll help, you know, click some things or inspire you to say, oh, you know what, it doesn't look as hard as I played it out in my head to be. So that's really, at least what my video is for, is just to you know, kind of encourage you to give it a try if it's something that you've been wanting to do. And I hope this video helped you in some way. So let me know down below if you have any questions, and I will try to help you guys out. Or, you know, if I don't have the answer, I'll try to direct you in the place that will have the answer for you. And yeah, all right, until next time, guys. Thanks for your patience, and I've missed you guys, and I'll be seeing you soon. All right, bye, guys.